The Weight of Silence by Heather Gudenkauf. Chapter 31. Antonia. I hear the loud voices in the kitchen and hear the name Jason Meacham spoken. What in God's name was that all about? I ask angrily as I come into the room. What did you say to him? Do you actually believe Ben had something to do with any of this? He's trying to help, for God's sake. I am furious. This stranger just ran my son out of his own home, and Louis just sat by and watched. He is looking down at his fingers now, something he has done since he was 7 and knew he was in trouble. Agent Fitzgerald doesn't look upset in the least, but of course he wouldn't. He just swoops into a place, creates havoc, and then picks up and leaves. I tell him so. I'll go after him, Louis offers, but I shake my head. He'll be fine. I know exactly where he's going. I'll go after him, and I'll go look for Callie while I'm at it. Nobody else appears to be doing anything but insulting the family who is missing somebody. I mutter. That's not a good idea, Miss Clark, Agent Fitzgerald informs me. It's not in the best interest of the investigation. What about Ben? I ask. Who is serving his best interests? What's all this nonsense about Jason Meacham? This has nothing to do with Callie, and I don't understand why you're bringing it up. My voice is shrill, and I hate the fact that I was losing control of it. More softly, I continue. Deputy Sheriff, I am surprised that you found it necessary to share that information with Agent Fitzgerald. To Fitzgerald, I say curtly, folding my arms in front of me. Tell me now, what it is that you think I should be doing. Then you tell me what it is you are going to do in order to find my daughter. Agent Fitzgerald stands and mirrors my own stance. I wonder if that was something they taught him in agent school to put me more at ease. I'm sorry about upsetting your son. However, as I have said many times, we must look at all angles. Have you considered that someone may be upset with someone in your family and be taking it out on Callie? I'm not saying this is so, but we must look at all the possibilities. As for Deputy Sheriff Louis, he had no idea I was going to broach the subject of Ben and Jason. Don't blame him. Fitzgerald looks properly chagrined. I shake my head in disgust. What is this? Good cop, bad cop? I'll stay here. You go do what you have to do to find Callie. But if you do not find her by 6 o'clock this evening, I am calling everyone I know, forming my own search party, and going into those woods. I know she's in there, and I am going in to find her. I will not support a search after dark, he replies, but I understand your need to participate in searching for her. We are, at this moment, organizing a search. The key word is organizing. We don't just want anybody out there stomping through the woods looking for the girls. We may bring in dogs to aid the search, and do not want the area to be compromised more than is needed. We have officers out looking now. If we need more, we will get the manpower. Everyone is doing all that they possibly can to find your daughter, Mrs. Clark. I'll also need to speak with your son again. Getting upset and running away will not help Callie. Ben would do anything for Callie, I say through clenched teeth. I believe that is true, Mrs. Clark. We'll speak soon. Fitzgerald turns to leave. Wait, I call after him. What are you going to do now? We're going to follow up some leads, interview neighbors and other individuals, and we're going to search for Callie and Petra. What leads? What individuals? Do you know something? I asked desperately. Nothing concrete that I can share with you at this time, Mrs. Clark. Oh, and please be aware that the media will most likely be contacting you shortly. This can be a very good thing. I suggest that you say no more than that your daughter is missing. Get the girl's pictures out there. The more people who see their faces, the more likely they will be spotted. A crime lab team will also be here shortly to gather evidence from the home. Please stay out of Callie's bedroom. We want to have as much evidence intact as possible. I suggest that you stay at a family or friend's home for the duration of this. Please let the officer know where you will be staying. We'll talk soon, Mrs. Clark. Goodbye. They are gone, but I can argue about not wanting to leave my house. Ben's gone. Callie's gone. And I am in my home all alone. Except for the police officer. And I hate that feeling. I walk outside, trying to decide on whom I can impose by showing up on their doorstep. Who wants to be dragged into the middle of this mess? Maybe Mrs. Norland, our elderly neighbor? She is as close to a friend that I have anymore, even though most of our interactions are simple waves from across our yards. My eyes take in my garden, which needs weeding, and I decide to wait a bit for any news before calling Mrs. Norland. I'm not going to let a stranger run me out of my own home. I go to the shed and gather up my gardening gloves, trowel, and bucket. I haven't watered in days, but know not to do so now. The blazing sun would evaporate the droplets immediately, and the plants would not be able to drink. In the darkened shed, a knotty, peeling structure that is beginning to lean. I grab my gardening tools and notice among the cobwebs 4 old gallons of paint, a soft, creamy yellow. Years ago, my brothers had moved away and my father joined them soon after. The house was too lonely, he said, without my mother. After Griff and I were married, he handed me the keys to the white, peeling 2-story and wished us much happiness there. I was 18. I still had wanted to live in a yellow house. I spent hours in the hardware store, staring at paint chips, trying to decide on the perfect shade for our home. I lugged the gallons of paint home the week after the wedding. Griff smiled and said he would get right on it. He never did. I was 18 then. Now, I'm 31, and still no yellow house. I step back out into the blinding sun and scrutinize my flower beds. Where to start? They are all neglected. It has been too hot to venture out in the heat these past weeks. My vegetable garden is brimming over with overripe tomatoes and zucchini. My flower beds are filled with creeping Charlie, deer-bitten blossoms, and wilted stems. My eye settles on a patch of dirt just beyond my vegetable garden. I had sowed it with grass seed earlier in the summer, but it didn't take. Instead, it appears that the plot has expanded to a stretch of soil about 5 feet long and 3 feet wide. I step over an overgrown stalk of rhubarb and examine the patch. 2 perfectly shaped child's footprints are imprinted in the dust. The toes are entirely defined. Larger prints of a man's boots are facing the smaller marks, almost toe to toe. Then, a few steps farther, just the boot prints, somewhat swept over by drag marks. My stomach fills with dread. The footprints could be old, I reason, but I know better. I bend down, lightly touch the dust, and rub it between my fingers. I stand quickly and run back to the house to tell an officer. and to call Lewis.